He's talking in kayfabe, I guess, about wearing the neck brace and taking the TK driver. And he makes a contribution to St. Jude's. So we're going to shout that out. Children's Hospital, St. Jude's Children's Hospital. We're going to shout that out. We're not going to hate on that. But we're going to laugh at just the mannerisms. I want you to pay attention to just even his face right now. Like, he can't be normal just talking to Rich Eisen. I mentioned that before, but like, goddamn, Tony, just act chill. You know what I mean? This isn't like you're not sitting there like speaking with the president. Just relax. But yeah, dude, just pay attention to TK, the inflections. Those are the things I'm looking at. But yeah, great charitable contribution. Shout out St. Jude's, but we're here to laugh at Tony Khan. That aside, right? So just, hey, I'm just putting it out there, right? And so there's a couple little funny nuggets in here, but let's play like a minute or two of this. Hopefully we don't get Don Stevens.
Your neck brace is off.
Yes.
Your freedom of movement is back, correct?
Yes. My freedom of movement is back. And as I was just saying on Roku, to bring it into the radio audience,
Yes, sir.
I'm very grateful to you because you helped bring my recovery and the fact that I was in the neck brace into the public consciousness. And, for those who don't know, I run a wrestling league called AEW.
Yes.
We're on TBS and TNT.
I mean, how much longer are they on TBS/TNT? Just kidding. But it's funny how this guy, Rich Eisen, just starts laughing. He's like, for those who don't know. Yeah, and he just starts laughing like it's just some joke. And like, I want wrestling to be more serious again, but it ain't serious. But I'm not on like his donations or contribution. I would never do that.
Consciousness. And, for those who don't know, I run a wrestling league called AEW.
Yes.
We're on TBS and TNT every week. We've got a show tonight on TBS, Wednesday night Dynamite.
Yes.
I know a lot of people don't watch wrestling, but for those people who do, to be in the NFL draft and have somebody of your stature, Rich, mention.
Well, I was concerned for your welfare. You're sitting there in a neck brace. I've never seen an executive wearing a neck brace in the draft room. I mean, you are the chief football strategy officer of the Jacksonville Jaguars. I've not seen anybody in a draft room in a neck brace before.
This is like
oh yeah, I did the first, and it's the safest wrestling company. But let me do an angle and say on TV that I feared for my life, and then do an angle that where I broke my neck and I'm getting assaulted by coworkers.
Our Andy Kaufman moment, Rich.
Don't ever compare yourself to Andy Kaufman.
So what were you doing, Tony? What the heck were you doing in the ring? What were you doing?
Well, so what happened is Jack Perry, he started in AEW 5 years ago on our first show. His name is Jungle Boy. He's Hollywood royalty. He's the son of the late, great Luke Perry.
Yes, indeed.
And Jack Perry's been with us since he was very
Oh, yeah, 90210. I love that show.
young. And I've always had a great relationship.
He played Dylan. Is that correct? I think that's correct, too.
Relationship with Jack. And there was a backstage incident. Jack went away for a while, almost on loan to New Japan Pro Wrestling. We worked it out. He had a visa. He was away from AEW. He did a great tour and really.
He keeps looking at the camera like, Tony, you're talking to him. Talk like a human would have a conversation. Look him in the face. Stop looking at the camera.
Reestablish himself. I was excited to reinstate Jack into AEW. And the night before the draft, we met in the ring. I offered Jack his spot back. We shook hands. It was a great moment, or so I thought. Then he punched me with a microphone in the stomach, and Matt and Nick, the Young Bucks, the AEW.
He punched me with a microphone in the stomach, and I was like, wow.
World Tag Team Champions, who famously wrestled Sting in his last ever match. They were really with us from the beginning of AEW. They've been great friends of mine to this point. They helped me up, I thought, only to give me a spike pile driver. They'd renamed it the Tony Khan driver, the TK driver. I should have seen it coming. It had my name written all over it.
Yeah.
Guys. Oh my God, dude. He's so happy and proud of himself. I can't hate on this man's happiness, I guess.
Yeah. And
then what happened?
Well, I was taken to the back. I was evaluated. And then they told me, you're injured. You need to stay in Jacksonville. And these guys just ran wild on AEW. I was trying to maintain order from Jacksonville remotely while I worked. And of course, with the NFL draft, thankfully, I was able to work on the NFL draft. We had a show live in Jacksonville on Saturday right after the draft. So NFL Films was following me around in the neck brace while I ran back and forth from like a speed dating episode or like the Boy Meets World episode where Corey is both with.
Oh yeah, Topanga. It's great. It's Sean Hunter. Boy Meets World. Oh yeah, I love that episode when the teacher tries to bang Topanga and Corey pushes him through a window. It was great. I love when people fly through glass. I think Darby Allin could play Corey. Yeah, Jungle Boy and Anna Jay. It's like Corey and Topanga. If they're smart, that's what they do, though. It would be like Jungle Boy and Topanga. No, it would be like 90210, but Jungle Boy's like slapping Anna Jay in the ass and stuff. I've said it a million times. This is so dumb hearing him talk about it on a show non-involved with wrestling. Exactly. Him explaining AEW. It's what Alfred Konua pointed out. How do you explain this to regular people? The way he delivers these contrived scripted lines is just sad. It's so funny.
With the wrestling show and trying to date Topanga. And it was like that.
Yeah, Vader, he's my favorite, especially when he wrestled Will Ospreay.
And I was like, doing the undrafted free agency and going back and forth with AEW Collision, which was live after NBA playoffs.
Yeah.
Of course, like one of those crazy things. Of course, it was the first time in AEW history they asked us to go on early because the Celtics Heat game was a blowout and they asked us to start 10 minutes early. So that was, of all the days, draft Saturday while I'm doing undrafted free agency, I had to run back over to Daly's place, start the show. It was
no way he referenced Boy Meets World. OMG, dude. Yes. He did, man.
Conan.
He's so cute, dude. I tell you guys, he's so adorable. He just watches Disney Channel and shit. You know what I mean, dude? I love that show, Boy Meets World. I loved it, rather, when I was younger. I grew up watching it, It's hilarious. This guy's so hilarious. And yeah, he brings up the wrestling episode of Boy Meets World. I mean, I'm a mark. I remember it. Remember, like, the bully? Who played the bully? Was his name Ethan Suplee? I think it was the name of the actor. And then Vader played his father. He like cameoed like a handful of times, and that's what Tony's talking about. I think it's adorable. Thank you so much for the super chat. But yeah, dude, he just did. Oh, Topanga, Sean Hunter. Yeah, I'll adopt you, Sean. Don't worry.
It was something, and NFL Films shot the whole thing.
When are we seeing the contents of that?
Hopefully soon. I think they're putting together something. Last year, great chance to plug our friends here at Roku.
Sure. The pick is in.
The whole pick is in, my friend. Yes.
Right.
This is synergy. Last year, Roku filmed what I believe is their biggest documentary ever, which was the pick is.
Tony is looking at the camera. Dude, look at the host and talk to the host. Oh, my God.
It was the 2023 NFL draft following around the Cowboys, the Panthers, the Colts, and the Jaguars.
Right.
And they were with us throughout the draft. And then, coming out of the pick is in, they actually, the post-credit scene is I signed a player in undrafted.
Oh, the post-credit scene of Time Cop. Beast was at the end of it. Or was that Miss Marvel? I don't remember, but they're all great. Disney's great. Haha. You guys get the gist of it. He makes a contribution, though, to St. Jude's, and a round of applause for him of that. But it's just, he's so awkward, right? Like people would say, for instance, about the UFC, right? Like the people who put the money into it were the Fertitta brothers, and then Dana White was the guy who went out in front of the people and talked shit and was like, yeah, I'm the face of this. He didn't put any of the money into it or whatever. That was the Fertittas. Tony needs that. He needs a guy who's like, I'm the Triple H. He needs a face of the company. You can go out and speak for him on behalf of him. Tony Khan is not the guy to be representing it, especially in these real world scenarios like the NFL. And Tony Khan addresses Becky Lynch's contract situation if AEW is interested in signing her. And we covered on the last show, speaking of Awful, before with Awful, about how like that's their big play is like, we're going to bring in free agents and we just want to bring in unsigned talent and other names from WWE and stuff. He's not a bad guy. He just sucks at running a promotion. I feel bad knocking him so much, but he's earned it at this point. Yeah. And especially like he came out and said like, oh, you're a bald assholes and all of that stuff about Triple H and HBK, and that doesn't bode well. And then when you come out and tote the numbers, but then you have people trying to tell us the numbers don't matter, but then they, we've covered it so much at the show. And exactly, Tony Khan sort of made his own bed with this stuff and just just like the way all the wrestlers came out too, and people who never wrestled in WWE were shitting on WWE, and then people who were saying like, oh, we're gonna beat them in the ratings right away, like Jericho was like, we're gonna beat them in the ratings and shit. That all just sort of backfired in everyone's faces, and that's why you got to kind of chill. You can't talk too much shit. You got to just make things happen. That's the main way to get things done. I'm telling you, you hold your cards close, you know what I mean? But I don't know, man. It just seems like Tony loves to spill to the certain subsection of dirt sheets, while others struggle for stories and coverage and all of that sort of thing. But Tony Khan addresses, speaking of free agents, etc., he addresses Becky Lynch's contract situation and if AEW is interested in signing her. And we covered it on the last show, man. She ain't going nowhere. But Tony Khan says, I don't want to try to tamper and do those things. He always brings up tampering. That's what I mean. It's like weird Mark Insider terms. Like he's always bringing up tampering. Like that's on his mind. That's why he's bringing that up. He's always bringing up bots because that's what's on his mind. Do you know what I mean? Someone says Mark Henry just popped up in MLW. Good for Mark Henry. I'm actually happy for that. And thank you so much for being here in the chat. But yeah, man, Tony Khan in the same interview, he goes, I try to keep it classy and have a reputation for honesty, and I really want to be a fair businessman. Were you honest, Tony, when you said you feared for your life? Because you weren't honest. The wrestling business is a real cutthroat business. Yeah, it's cutthroat. You invoked the tampering word. Khan agreed, though, that Becky is a great star. Just don't get your hopes up. That's never going to happen, ever. And especially when like AEW was offered considerably more than 110 million per year by WBD, which that was after Meltzer came out with the, oh, you need at least 110 million. Now there's reports, oh, they were offered considerably more than that. Who knows? Everybody's speculating. It's all dumb shit. Actually, speaking of contracts, though, Matt Hardy pipes up and goes, he thinks Jeff Hardy's deal is up in June. And Matt Hardy says he's been cleared. He's no, should I do it? I need Marv to do his Matt Hardy, but he's been cleared. He's just sitting at home waiting on the call. Unlike me, he's not someone who really gets out and makes things happen. Okay. He just kind of waits on someone to call him. Yeah, that's called being a star, brother. Not that Matt Hardy isn't, but like that's because Jeff is like mainstream kind of, you know, like people who don't watch wrestling know Jeff Hardy. You know, everybody knows who the fuck he is. If you don't know the Hardy Boys, you know at least what Jeff Hardy is, right? But yeah, he's got till like mid-June, and then his deal's up. So if he ends up re-signing or not, who knows? What do you guys think, chat? I think Jeff Hardy will show up in TNA, and then I think they'll go to WWE once more in the end. And they got to get inducted in the Hall of Fame, right? It only makes sense because they could get inducted as individuals and as the Hardy Boys together, which I think they would just do the Hardy Boys all as one. Yeah, man. Shout out Jeff Hardy, though. Big fan. I love Jeff Hardy. Always have. Was my favorite wrestler when I was a kid for sure. But yeah, dude, less money. Contracts are coming up. Just the Jeff Hardy stuff. Obviously, the Exodus that we covered on the last show. Tons of as Connor Hassler said, tons of contracts are coming up. People are not going to be renewing them. Matt Hardy's talking straight up like Jeff ain't renewing his shit. So Tony Khan just fumbled the Hardy Boys, which is pretty goddamn hard to do. He's talking
Bryan
to
Danielson
via Shaq Wrestling, SHAK Wrestling. Shout them out, wrestling, bro. I don't know who they are. Tony Khan talks to Shaq Wrestling. Shout them out. Bryan Danielson fits on like a glove in AEW. I would bend over backwards for him. Pause, no diddy. And do anything for Bryan Danielson. Pause again. Just kidding, guys. It's Pride Month, dude. You can do whatever you want. And I have no judgment, never have, never will, regardless of a month. But pause for Tony Khan. And he loves Danielson, bro. Tony Khan loves wrestling, dude. He loves it, bro. Anyways, though, let's hear what he has to say.
and why he loves AEW. And I think Bryan Danielson fits in AEW, fits on AEW like a glove.
Tony's got some. He's trying to fit Danielson like a glove, y'all. What the? Tony's got some. He's like, what did I say before, right? He speaks what's on his mind. This shit's on his mind, dog. That's all I'm saying. Hey, that's all I'm saying.
And as long as he will consider wrestling with us, that door is always open, and I would bend over.
That door is always open. The back door, perhaps, Tony? No judgment. I'm just saying. The door is always open.
Over backwards for him and do.
You would bend over backwards, that forbidden door. Tony, it's the money. If you're going to come out. Dude, he loves Danielson. That's all I'm saying. I think Danielson's a married man, though, Tony. Watch those P's and Q's.
That door is always open, and I would bend over backwards for him and do anything for Bryan Danielson. And why he loves AEW. And I think,
I don't know, dude. Sounds pretty sus to me. No, just kidding. Guys. This show is my favorite thing in the world, dude. Tony Khan talks about on CBS Sports, he talks about the possibility that Dynamite could become 3 hours. Now, I see jokes. People are like, he's pushing for it to be the first ever 4-hour show. I think that's all jokes and in jest, but he does want this to be 3 hours. He wants it to be like Raw, folks. I'm sorry. And if he had the gall, if he embraced the grind, he'd go live 3 hours and try and go head to head with SmackDown or Raw. You know, like try and take one of those shows out, but it ain't about that. It's just about enjoy wrestling. So Tony Khan says, you want to keep Dynamite as strong as possible. You look at the history of what happened with the 2-hour wrestling show when that show was expanded to 3 hours. So just talking about Raw, like, okay, their history is not your history. It's the pro wrestling history, but be different. Try. That's make a shot. Take a shot. I don't know. It's interesting right now. I don't care personally if it's 2 or 3. I don't give a shit with Dynamite at this point. You know, if it was me, I'd just run the 3rd hour live and then just tell more stories and have the longer matches, but then use that extra hour that you normally just like do the matches, all that you want to have that long as you normally do, Tony. But then you have that extra hour of TV, spread it all out and tell stories in that extra hour, you know, because like with the commercials, that's like 40 minutes or what, 48 minutes, depending what. But Tony says it's interesting right now per hour. The most we get per hour for any of our TV shows is Dynamite. Yeah, we know, dude. Come on. You don't even need to tell anyone that. No one even knows that you have other shows. Either way, 5-hour weekly programming is the absolute minimum. So in some ways, you would say that would be a very lucrative opportunity. I think it's a very interesting conversation to have about how many nights a week you allocate to programming. Is 5 hours the best? Should we do 6? Well, you never know, Tony, unless you try and you have the money to try and you're just copying WWE. You're like, oh, yeah, the 5 hours works. Why? Because WWE did that forever. This is what we're talking about. Like, you just want to be WWE, and it's glaringly fucking obvious, dude. And then here's Awful, who was on the show. And again, I should have showed him this stuff, but here's him just saying, shut the fuck up about some dude saying, like, don't talk about, why do people talk about the numbers when the owners, blah, blah, blah. But then here's just a compilation of Tony talking all the numbers because that's what they do, folks. That's what they do, folks. That's what they do, folks.